Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very successful and a multifaceted professional from Houston, Texas, USA, Melanie Johnson. Melanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ash. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you. Melanie is the founder of Elite Online Publishing. She's a Wall Street Journal and a USA Today best-selling author. So, Melanie, before we come to Elite Online Publishing, a few questions for you. You've had a fascinating journey from Miss Michigan to a media mogul. What part of that path most shaped who you are today?
Gosh, I would say, you got to go back to the core, right? I mean, Miss Michigan taught me a lot of discipline, of learning my talent, being aware of world events, at a younger age, and really made me mature more and being able to interview. And just, present yourself well between hair, makeup, all of those things. And then that translated into becoming an auto show model, which I don't even have in my bio. I traveled around the country representing different car companies, and then decided I really wanted to get into broadcasting. And I think, being an anchor, getting my feet wet there, and a producer, and learning like the nuts and bolts of how television worked, but then really got married and thrown into the deep end of starting a whole TV station from scratch. Now, that will really shape who you are, because if I hadn't been an entrepreneur to that point.
Yeah.
And then you're starting a huge business from scratch. You just get a piece of paper, and then you have to get a tower lease, get all the equipment, find an office. You have to do everything. You're building this from the ground up and bootstrapping it and financing it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, money's not coming in yet. How do you do that? And I love telling the story. My husband at the time told me, well, we can't afford Christmas presents this year. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to go to the jeweler. I met him at an event and see if he wants to do. We have tons of airtime because we're still new. So I went and tried out advertising time for our Christmas presents that year.
Amazing.
So it taught me how to be inventive, right? You have to look at things from different angles. And I think starting something from the very beginning and having your back against the wall for certain times, it teaches you to look at things different ways, and always try and be positive that, this too will change.
Amazing. What an amazing story. Thank you for sharing this. What was the inspiration to start Elite Online Publishing, and what gap did you see in the publishing industry?
Publishing found me. I didn't find publishing.
Okay.
You think like, most people are like, this is what I want to do, or I see this opportunity. That was not the case at all. I think God just had a plan and just opened these doors and said, this is where you're going. I gone to a marketing conference, a digital marketing conference. This was back like in 2012 or so. And one of the things they taught you was publishing there, that now everyone could publish a book, but they taught us how to be everywhere, set up all your platforms, create your personal brand. And I was going several times a year to this same person's digital marketing group. And then you meet some of the same people are showing up there. So you start to create relationships and friends. And I met another gal there. We were both single at the time, and we weren't going to have our kids in the month of June. And she said, hey, I know you've got that villa down in the Dominican Republic. We should go there since we don't have our kids. And we should make money. So came up with the plan to do a book writing retreat. She was a website developer, Jen Foster. So on the breaks, we did what they told us to do at that digital marketing conference. She created a landing page. Now, granted, this is like in 2014-ish, and created a landing page, created a Facebook page, made videos in the lobby in between breaks for it. So we launched this book writing retreat, had a couple people that came, and then we came back. We thought, well, that was fun. Maybe we'll do that once a year or something. But then when I came back, oh my gosh, people were calling me and texting me to come and go to coffee with them. I didn't know you published books and could make people
Mm,
bestsellers. And so I told her, hey, I think we have a business here. And at the time I was doing real estate development, and I said, this will be my side hustle.
mm,
But then real estate fell down, and my side hustle became my main hustle. And 10
wow.
years later, 3,000 books later, I've been in this business, and it's been very good to me. And I really love it.
Amazing, amazing. I'm going to reach out to you because my 10th book is coming out, but maybe I'll write to you and say, let me do one with you. But let's talk about elite online publishing. And I know one of the biggest challenges new authors face is to find a publisher.
Yes.
What is the biggest misconception new authors have when they come to you?
Depending on the age bracket, well, I should say it really is any age bracket.
Mhm.
So we're used to traditional publishing, right? You go to a publisher and they give you money for the rights to your book. But
Mhm.
now with Amazon, like 10, 12 years ago, they opened it up where there is no barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Anyone can publish their book. So I think that where people get in the weeds are, what are my choices? So
Mm.
your choices are either to learn to do it yourself and learn all the nuances, but I
Mhm.
say it's kind of like you want to remodel your bathroom. So you have to learn to be a plumber, a tile layer, right? How to install everything, how to paint.
Yeah.
And do you want to take the time to do all that? And
Mm.
are you going to mess it up and flood your bathroom, right? Or is the tile going to be crooked and you're going to spend twice as much money and your time?
Mhm.
Then there is the hybrid publisher, and then there's the self-publishing, which is what we are. So
Mm.
hybrid, what they do is they charge for their services, but then they take a portion of your royalties. And the biggest thing that I think is a misconception, they don't charge as much as maybe what we do,
Mm.
but then they publish the book under their company name, meaning
Mm.
account for Amazon and Ingram. You never see how many books you sold. You can't log into the back end and say, oh my gosh, I sold 20 books today, or
Mm.
this is how much royalties I made this month.
Mm.
They're in control of that. And if they go upside down, which a couple companies have, you don't have access to that. And your
Right.
book might not be around anymore, right? So I believe an author should be in complete control of their intellectual property. And that's what you're seeing even in the music business, where people are like, no, I'm not going to go with a record label. I
Yeah.
don't need to do a record label. I can launch everything myself
Agree.
and YouTube and all the social media platforms and stream it.
Mm.
So business is really, we globally publish your book so it's available everywhere in the world. And the
Mm.
difference is we work to make sure you become a best-selling author. So we
Mm.
use a strategy that's used since our book writing retreat. They became
Right.
best authors. So we think it's important, if you're going to spend all that time to write a book, to make sure it's good enough and that we can stand behind it and push you to become a best-selling author and an award-winning author as well. So
Mm.
and then you get all the rights, all the royalties, and you have concierge service. I mean, I
Amazing.
love to go to a hotel and I just say, hey, as a matter of fact, at the Villa in the Dominican Republic, I'll use that as an example. The
Mm.
concierge comes the first day you're there and they say, where would you like to go to dinner? Here are all the restaurants. Let me
Mm.
tell you about them. You choose everything and you walk away and they set everything up for you. And
Mm.
then it's done and you just get to enjoy the experience. So
Mm.
that's what we try and do at Elite Online Publishing, is let you just enjoy the experience, but still have full creative control with all of our knowledge behind you to do it.
Fascinating. And this is such a big, big, big help for first-time authors, particularly. So,
Mhm.
therefore, a follow-up question for you, Melanie, is what does the book creation journey look like for an author working with Elite?
So let's say we'll take you from, and there is AI now that's in
Mhm.
here. So we've got that kind of going on. We meet an author wherever they are, but let's start
Okay.
with somebody who just has ideas rolling around in their head. I have
Mhm.
an author flying in from Florida tomorrow to meet with us to do a VIP book creation day. So she has her whole life story. She's a restaurateur. Her family
Mhm.
was restaurateurs, but she's like, I don't know where to begin. I don't know how to make sense of all this. I've got my whole story of how it started, but I have all this business expertise. So
Mhm.
we the day with her and we create about 6 to 10,000 words of content, but we create the avatar, we create the theme of the book, the purpose of the book, and then we give her as the deliverables about 10 chapters
Mm-hmm.
with content in each chapter, and then notes of, hey, you need another story here, or you might need data here, explain this further. So then they can move on and work with one of our book coaches or a ghostwriter from there. And of course, we have AI if they want to come in, and we tell authors, if you're going to use AI, use it to get some ideas, tell them your journey, upload some of your content, and have it create a book outline for you. And then you kind of draft from there.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we're coming out with a new book called Be Recognized this fall. And that's how we started it. I put all of my speeches in there, some interviews like this were in there, some content we created to start it, some ideas to brainstorm with us. But the thing that it can't replace is your stories.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the creation process. And then the publishing process is so much fun. So an author, let's say their manuscript is done, and then they contact us. So the first thing we do is they fill out an author form, and then we have our first meeting and onboard them. And then we start nailing down that title and subtitle. We just had a meeting on this yesterday, and some of the things the author wanted, we said, those are great, but those don't have the keywords in them. See if we can say the same thing and have a keyword loaded for Amazon so people can find you. And that's where our expertise comes in. You know, it comes in the metadata and the keywords, not just for the title and the subtitle, but for the book description, and do A+ content. And most authors are like, what's A+ content? They have no idea. So what we do is take them and then create their book cover. And the question, Ash, you may have is like, well, what if I have an idea about my book cover? Do I get to pick? So we have our graphic team all come up with ideas based on your general ideas and maybe some book covers that you've sent us. And then we start from there. And at the end of the day, we want it to be your vision matched with our expertise. So that way everybody's happy and you have a book cover that's wonderful.
Absolutely. And I can see many, many more authors reaching out to you now for their books. But what is a typical time frame from the time they start speaking to you to a manuscript to a bestseller?
So I would say if you're starting with VIP day, I'm going to say anywhere from 6 months, if that's for somebody who is a super organized, aggressive person. We've had people who are CEOs and they are running it like a project and they get back to us right away, all the way up to a year. But that happens usually if something gets in the way. And I always say it's usually on the author's end. Life gets in the way, someone gets sick, hey, we've had hurricanes here or life experiences that slow us down. So, and we understand that. So it's really at the speed the author can work, but anywhere from 6 months to 12 months, coming from just an idea. Now, if you have manuscript already to us, I always say 3 to 5 months. And again, 3 months is if everything is aggressive on the author's part and they're responsive to us. And then the 6 months is if life gets in the way.
Fascinating. You also talk about your company's #1 bestseller guarantee.
Yes.
Tell me about this guarantee and what makes it possible. And give me an example.
Yeah. So we had a book launch yesterday that hit #1 in 4 categories. So we worked with a business coach probably about, maybe 6 years ago now. Excuse me. And they said, well, what's your differentiator? You know, how do you differentiate yourself? And we said, well, we make everyone a bestseller. Well, can you guarantee that? And we were like, well, I don't know. Like, it was kind of scary, but what if we don't? And so we said, well, we would run the campaign again for free. And we have never missed. We've hit every author that is signed up for our bestseller program to be a bestseller. And what really makes that work, and I'm going to tell this quick story. We worked with Shaquille O'Neal's former wife, Shawnee Henderson, and now Shawnee has 1.8 million people on her Instagram. Her husband's a pastor with 40,000 members of her church. She was working with a traditional publisher, and her and I connected, and I said, well, congratulations on your book. I'm sure it's a bestseller. She said, no, it's not. And I said, well, are you getting book awards? No, I haven't. And so she hired us, and we ran a campaign about 4 months after her book was launched and made it bestseller, came up with a whole value stack to give away to her audience, told her step by step what we needed to do on her end, what we were going to do on our end. And we worked with the traditional publisher to get her bestseller status and book awards.
Wow.
So it really is that strategy of having the right components, right, of the offer and how you launch the book. And on the back end, it's your cover, it's your keywords, it's the metadata, it's all of those things working. And then running this campaign and having all of those things kind of come together at once to make fireworks. And not every publisher knows how to do that. And that's why we're happy to work with other publishers. We've had people come to us from other publishers going, can you just run the campaign for us? So we do that as well.
Amazing. And beyond hitting bestseller status, how do you help authors monetize their books?
That is such a great question. So the first thing I tell an author is you're not going to get rich from book sales.
Correct.
So, like if you think, oh, I'm going to sell thousands of copies of books, it just doesn't happen. And there is a way to start to help you to sell books, but really the biggest misnomer is how do you use that book? We're talking nonfiction books here to leverage for your business. Use it to get those clients. Like I say, is there a client that you can send that book to that you could send it with a message? Hey, look at page 52. And I think this would really make a change in your business. There's an author that we had that he sent his book to someone, and it was a prospect. The prospect kept the book on his nightstand, and it was there for a year. Not that you want your sales cycle to be a year, but it was there for a year. He never opened the book even. Just from the book cover, he contacted the author and said, listen, I've been looking at your book for a year. I'm just going to hire you. So that's the power of a book, that when someone holds it or reads it or thumbs through it, suddenly they're familiar with you. It's different than just a video that goes away. We post videos all the time. Hey, I was in the television business. Commercials come and go. That's why they keep running them over and over again. But, if you posted something 2 years ago or a year ago on your Instagram feed, it's not going to come up unless you repost it again. But that book is there forever. People see perceived value. They say, I don't know where I got this data from, but they say the most trusted people are doctors and authors. So know that, wow, this person took the time to put everything together in one place. Oprah even told a writer from the New York Times, you have these great articles, and I would love to see you curate all these articles and put them in one place so your fans could have them in one place to read everything that you wrote. There's just a power in that. And if you can leverage that. Now, about book sales, I feel like I'm going on here, but we Stephanie Chung, once she did her book, she was with a speakers bureau, Washington Speakers Bureau. But once her book came out, she became a bestseller and award winner with us. Her speaking career exploded, but we taught her how to leverage her books with her speaking fee. So now she is selling 300 to 1,000 books, including that in her speaking fee, and getting money and getting those book sales. So that's another way to do it. And I think authors forget about bulk sales. So what about a company? We have a doctor who wrote a book, and he is going to be doing bulk sales, offering it to pharmaceutical companies, right? So a pharmaceutical company can use that as a giveaway or something that they can give to their clients or people, or the people that work for them as a gift. And he can sell 10,000 books to them. So that's another way to leverage actual book sales besides just using it for your business to get new customers and clients.
Amazing tips. Thank you so much. Melanie, who is your ideal author? Are there any specific industries or professions that you prefer? And do they have to be in the US or anywhere in the world? 3 separate questions.
So I'll do the last one first. We worked with a billionaire from Cape Town, South Africa. He did a search of who was the best publishing company around the world, and he chose us. We were so flattered that he did that. So we've worked with people from all over the world. And then the other part of your question, our ideal client is really someone who is an action taker, right? Who doesn't sit or second guess themselves. And I will say that I've worked with I mean, I've worked with presidents of NFL teams and they're worried, is my book going to be okay? Because you're vulnerable when you're putting yourself out there. But the people who are action takers, we love working with them, who are good decision makers, and people who are nonfiction authors. We do children's books and fiction, but we are most helpful to those who are business owners. So if you're a C-suite, if you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, and even if you're just getting started, we love working with people who have a budget that are getting started with their business and they know a book can be the cornerstone of their content. And now we've been working with business owners to layer in not just the book, but layering in how to use processes and systems with AI, because we've integrated so much of that into our company that now we're realizing, oh my gosh, you don't have a CRM, or you've never even touched an AI application. You've never even looked at ChatGPT. Well, let's make a custom GPT for you that you can have your voice for emails. So we've really embraced a whole nother level and married that not just with a book, but let's come up and help your whole business come up with all these systems that we've created with AI.
Incredible. I have time for two more questions for you, Melanie.
Okay.
How is Elite Online Publishing innovating with new technologies and platforms?
See, I kind of touched on that just a minute ago.
Yeah.
So we are using so many different things with artificial intelligence. So I will give you some of my favorites that we mentioned in our book. So one, to create social media content, I love Oasis. You can put your book in there, you can put just a chapter in there, and it spits out tons of content. It'll do Twitter/X. It'll give you 10 quotes for that. It'll come up with a blog post, a New York Times bestselling article. It'll come up with some posts for social media pics. It'll come up with a blog post all at one time. So I'm loving that. I also love a chat hub. I think is interesting. It's maybe if you're a little more advanced and you're not worried about being overwhelmed. So everyone's heard of ChatGPT, but then you've got things like Llama and Grok and all these other ones that are out there, Gemini. So when you go into Chat Hub, you can put one prompt in and 6 of them will come up at one time. So you have answers from all 6 of these things, and they're all a little different. So you can pick and choose, oh, I really like this, or this one is just better altogether. And you don't have to go to each one individually of those. And what we're finding is having custom GPTs, I have my own voice cloned of me. So now when I want to send like a series of emails, like when we're doing this book launch, I go in and I have my own voice in there. So my team can create the whole email series, and it sounds like I'm talking to you versus just, somebody else. A while back when we were transitioning to this, my liaison, she likes to be called my liaison versus assistant. She created a series of emails, and I said, this doesn't really sound like me. And I said, did you use my custom GPT? And she said, no, I didn't. I said, I can tell. So she went back and rewrote them with me. So we like using that. We're getting into Delphi as well. A lot of different tools, but the main thing is how to become that one like content king or queen, and you are known as the expert in your niche. And to do that is it's starting with the book. And when you have the book, you create thousands of pieces of content that can be pulled with AI to create this whole base and ongoing, I call it like an AI authority engine for you, that you can have this engine that is working for you 24/7, especially even in the sales. We're learning how to use it for sales to get leads and follow up with leads. And you're not doing all of that work. So those are some of the things that we're using.
Fascinating. And my last question for you, where do you see the publishing industry heading in the next few years? And what's next for Melanie and Elite Online?
God, that is the big, hairy question. Where is publishing going? We ask ourselves that pretty often, especially with AI changing the game. And even Amazon. So what Amazon is doing now, it's asking you a question. Was any of this content created with AI? Was all of it created with AI? And you're wondering, well, if you're saying, well, all of it was with AI, at some point, are they going to say, we're taking your book down? Because we've even seen that recently where authors have gotten their books taken down by Amazon for no reason. Oh, you're not following our terms and services. And we're like, well, which terms and service? And really tell you. So I think it's still kind of the wild, wild west with publishing. It's evolving. So, you have still, I think traditional publishing is kind of going the way of traditional media. Like I'm seeing, I said this, that's why I started digital media. I thought everyone can have their own channel with YouTube back in 2010. And TV and radio is having a slow death, but it's slowly going down. So when I deal with traditional publishers, I mean, I love them, but they are still very old school. They still embrace the same way that they've launched books for decades and decades. And I think that needs to be changed.
Yeah.
I think if you want to work with traditional media or traditional publishers, you have to have a huge following. If you don't have over 1 million, they don't even want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I'm even seeing that. I saw a guy that was in movies, and he went in for an audition, and they said, well, how many followers do you have? They want to know if he's going to draw an audience and he can promote the movie. So I think that's part of it. And I think even when you publish your own book, like I said, it's really that authority engine that if you're starting from zero, you need to create this engine and this platform for yourself. And to me, it's all about the future is all about personal brand. How are you developing your personal brand? Because that you can take anywhere. You can take it to any job, to try and sign up for another job or apply for another job. You can take it to any business, right? Oh my gosh. So like even us, the next step for us is we're publishing, but now we're doing consulting for companies about how to develop this personal brand beyond books and develop this whole authority engine for yourself and platform. And I think that's where our future is going. And I study AI and have a mastermind group that I'm part of. And I spend probably 5 hours a week monkeying around with AI and learning new tools. And don't be afraid. Like people say, oh, well, then it's ChatGPT now, and tomorrow it's going to be Gemini is the main one. I said, but it's really retraining your brain on the language. I remember on the Today Show, the internet came out and they're like, what's the internet? What is the net? Like the way they said it was so off, like, because they had no idea. So we had to learn the language. And yes, sadly, we had to learn everything about the internet, SEO, websites, and now it's new technology. And this technology, you're not getting to breathe as much. I just got an email. This was from a friend of mine where he had predicted about 5 months ago that, you had 6 to 12 months to catch up. Now he's saying you've got about 4 months, or you're going to be left in the dust.
Absolutely.
So I encourage you to embrace the technology, embrace having a personal brand, and get on developing that personal brand right away. If you can start with a book and take the time to slow down to get that content in, then you can go so fast afterwards because you'll have that big meaty piece of a book that you can draw from for everything else.
Absolutely. And on that note, Melanie, I just want to say what a fabulous conversation this has been. I'm sure a lot of my viewers and listeners will probably begin now looking for Melanie Johnson's phone number to be on their speed dial to be able to reach out to Elite Publishing for their potential book. Thank you for covering such incredible amount of depth on what goes into publishing a book and what Elite can do for potential authors. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck.
Thank you for the great questions. And I would love to give your audience a free book if they want to go to my Instagram, Elite Online Publishing. In the link tree, we have our strategic writing system book, and it tells you a lot of ways to get started with kicking your book off.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.